How's it going, guys? And welcome to the showdown between the Beastmen led by the Chaos Cow and the Skaven, who are going to be led by a Foul Warlord. So let's jump right into this match, guys, and have some fun. So in the front line, I do have an alternating core of Gore Herds with shields who are going to be supported by a couple groups of Best Gore Herds. So the Gore Herds with shields, I feel, make a very good kind of core infantry choice in this matchup. 31 melee attack, 36 melee defense, and 30 weapon strength is honestly going to be enough to deal with most Skaven infantry. So if they're fighting clan rats and Skaven slaves, and even against plague monks, these guys probably will trade okay. I think they would overall probably lose the matchup versus the plague monks, but I feel like they're a pretty safe pick. On top of that, the Skaven decide to go very skirmish heavy, so if they have gutter runners with poison or slingers or just kind of like annoying missile attacks, these guys do have the bronze shield, so I think what is it, 35%, so it's definitely not bad. So to give me a little bit more punch in my front line, I do have two groups of the Best Gore Herds, and these guys can deal with most. I'm pretty sure they'll win against all Skaven infantry, although maybe they would lose one-on-one to Sensor Bearers. But still, a very solid charge bonus. You can see they have 40 melee attack, and in case they do decide to go very heavy with Storm Vermin, there are some Skaven approaches in this matchup that use Storm Vermin and sometimes Storm Vermin with Halberds to counter Minotaurs and other large threats. So I feel like having a combination of just regular Gores as well as Best Gores is definitely the way to go. You can see in the middle, this is going to be the weakest point of my formation. I do have two groups of Gore Herds with shields, so a formation like this could easily be cracked by like a Doom Wheel or some Sensor Bears or something like that. So just to be safe, I put Mork or the Shadowgave here with the Staff of Ruinous Corruption and of course the Spirit Essence of Chaos. On top of that, I got some Harpies, and I always like to have one group of Harpies here. I mean, they can get picked out of the sky by Warp Lightning, by Slingers and things like that, but they just give you some mobile pressure. So if there's like some Globadiers or some Slingers off in the periphery of the army that your opponent's kind of forgotten about, these guys make a very good option for chasing them down. Two groups of these Centaurs with throwing axes just to chase down Doom Wheels, and also they have good enough combat stats in regular melee that they can honestly charge most lightly armored Skaven troops and do a ton of damage. So these guys are a great utility unit. In the forest, I do have my Bray Shaman with Wild, so I'm going to be trying out a bit of a Cygor build. I have one natural Cygor, which, I feel like most Skaven players aren't going to expect this because it's so easily countered by like Warp Lightning and other Skaven ranged tools. So I thought maybe bringing it could be a bit of a mind game here, wherein he's not going to have the answer or not really prepare for it. So we'll see how it does. And on top of that, I do have a Bray Shaman with the Lore of Wild over here, so he's going to be summoning another Cygor, which I'm actually going to be doing more so in the front line, hoping to get Terror and also maybe use the mass of the Cygor and its AP to take out heroes and Doom Wheels. So I have that, and then last but not least, I think I have two groups of just one group. So Centaurs with great weapons and some Poison Hounds to just really try and catch things and go after the Doom Wheels. So that's pretty much it for my army. For my opponent, he has a pretty diverse army here, so he's got some Clan Rat Spears on the periphery, a very solid choice. These guys can fend off Centaurs and really protect some of his ranged pieces, the Poison and Globadiers. He does also have two groups of the Plague Monk Sensor Bears. So these guys, if they don't take a lot of damage out of the gates with Skirmish and Harass, they can do a ton of damage against pretty much any infantry unit. They 46 weapon strength, and they also have a Discourage ability, so they're going to take the Frenzy off my units very, very quick. So I like that quite a bit for my opponent. He also has a Doom Wheel. He has a Plague Priest right here, and I don't think that's Skrulk. No, is it? Is it? That looks like exactly like Lord Skrulk. That's pretty trippy, but no, it's actually just a Plague Priest. Then he does have a Warlord right here on foot, and what is this item? I don't know if I've ever seen this. So Shield of Distraction. Oh, that's got a cool -5 melee attack. I've never really seen him used in this way, but pretty neat little unit there. In the front, he's got some Slingers, he's got some Skaven Slaves, and just all kinds of nasty rats. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. So initially, I do come out of the forest here with these guys and this side as well, and I wanted to see if he had the skirmish mode on, because if he didn't, I potentially could have gotten a free charge on the Skaven Slave Slingers, and that would have been nice. I mean, they don't cost a whole lot, but if they rout, then I can just chase and feast them down as they retreat and get a 300-400 gold for free. So my opponent, very privy to my plans, he's able to screen me with the Clan Rat Spears and even start throwing some of these slings. I think he actually gets a volley off here, I can't remember. So you can see the Cygor though. Like, a lot of people stopped using the Cygor after it got nerfed in Rise of the Tomb Kings, but honestly, it's still incredibly powerful. One or two of these rocks has just taken out, basically half of the HP and almost like it's just a ton of models from these Plague Monk Sensor Bears, which are a very expensive unit. So let's see how this rock does. It's coming in here, and it looks like it's probably going to hit. And yeah, man, that is some solid value. I mean, half the HP gone, so arguably that's like, what, 500 gold right out of the gates? So the Cygor definitely on its way to paying for itself. So I do get a charge in here right out of the gates. I get some of my Poison Warhounds, my Centaurs with great weapons, and I tried to get a free cycle charge on the Skaven Slaves, but I got a little bit caught up there. My opponent had a nice little summon that pinned me down. You can see the Doom Wheel on the far side is just going to be running over some of these Best Gore Herds, but I do react with my throwing axes. You can see the throwing axes coming in here pretty hard in the paint, going to be just dumping right into this Doom Wheel, and it looks like they're not the most accurate throws. They're trying their hearts out though, for sure, but at least I have the pressure on it, so he can't just do that for free. So on the front line, the rest of the Beastmen herd is going to be colliding with some of these Skaven, and this is a pretty interesting matchup here. But the Gore herd's going to be fighting with the Plague Monks. Probably both of them are going to take considerable shock damage, but I think the Plague Monks win in the long run. So what's great is I already got the Frenzy probably pretty close to being off of these Plague Monk Sensor Bears. My Cygor in the back doing a pretty good job. And he does have the Doom Wheel on best score herds, which is a pretty good engagement, but my throwing axes are generating a lot of value, and I'm able to pull together my Centaurs with great weapons. But another great play for my opponent here. He gets these Plague Monks summoned with his Plague Priest and is able to use them to support this Doom Wheel. So now I can't get this free surround. And if you look here, you can see these Centaurs are, getting dragged down and just taken out by these rats just in droves. So very, very well played there, kind of using that to screen as he retreats. But I still do have some decent pressure and got a ton of damage on that Doom Wheel. So if we take an overarching look at the battlefield, I do get a summon Cygor in the main fight. So this guy's going to be pretty terrifying for the Skaven. He's just going to start crushing them. And though my opponent does have answers, you can see he has some high DPS, non-armor piercing units kind of working on this guy. It's still going to terror out and make a pretty big difference here in the middle of the fight. So, and also in the back, in the meantime, my other Cygor's in pretty good shape, just kind of throwing rocks and having a good old time. And also my Shaman here, he's going to be on his Chariot. So that Chariot does have anti-infantry and armor piercing. AP not so big in this matchup, but having the Chariot to run through Skaven troops is very good. So my best score herds who did get terror routed by the Doom Wheel, if I'm not mistaken, are back in action. They're just going to be chopping the skulls of some of these Plague Monks. That's why I think it's really important to have a couple of these best score herds. They are more durable. Their armor's going to let them hold against Plague Monks and things like that. Whereas if you just go very heavily in low tier troops, I feel like they just get mass routed by Doom Wheels and other things like that. So he's going to be advancing his Globadiers here, who did take a bit of a beating from my Harpies. And you can see this one group of Harpies has just been doing a ton of work. So in the back, I was able to basically chase off this Poison Wind Globadier group, and I was also able to do some really substantial damage, so just a true testament to the value of bringing a group of Harpies. Also, I did have a group of Gore Herds that routed off into the forest here. They're going to come into the clutch here because the bounce power is in my favor, but my opponent certainly has some tricks up his sleeve, and also it's a bit of a falsely inflated bounce of power because I did get a massive Chaos Spawn summon. So Morker, I had kind of an alpha strike, so I waited for my one Chaos Spawn summon to come in, and as soon as that one went off, I then summoned my next one. So it's just a huge power spike, hopefully, able to drive off a ton of the Skaven troops. And you can see in the middle, they're going to be collapsing on the Assassin, who only has 20 armor, so the 130 weapon strength of these Chaos Spawn is going to be very, very solid against him. And also, my Cygor is going down. You can see the Skaven Slingers are doing a very good job, and down he goes, and he's going to fall on some rats. I've actually wanted to watch this for a while. I've always wondered if there's at least a splash show. He falls down on the rats, yeah, and it looks like he does send some of them flying, but it'd be interesting to see if he did some HP damage. But very well played there by my opponent, dragging the big boy down, and also leaving Morker a little bit isolated. So this was a very, very scary situation here. But in the meantime, you can see my Hog Chariot is just going hog wild on this Plague Priest over here, and I do have a lot of troops coming back from routing. On top of that, I do have a Gore Herd chasing off some of these high-value troops, so screening two of these very important missile troops that, well, I guess Skaven Slaves aren't terribly important, but had they been left on the battlefield, kind of shooting into this main blob and kind of poking down my Chaos Spawn, that could have been very, very scary. Some of my Centaurs with great weapons, I'm just kind of using them on sweeper duty. They're a little bit too weak to make a substantial impact on this main battle, and there's so many spears, so if you're in a situation... Oh, look at that boulder throw from the Cygor, just a direct hit on that Doom Wheel, and I'm telling you guys... A lot of people kind of wrote the Cygor off as being nerfed and not as good and just not worth bringing, but I'm telling you, this thing is a force of nature still. Even in a matchup where I didn't think it would be terribly useful, so far you guys have seen it's done huge damage against infantry. Even when he was in some of these blobs, we were able to get some really good shots with the Cygor here. So I do pull in my remaining troops, Investigors and Centaurs, and I'm able to get this Doom Wheel pretty much down. It has about 46 HP, and down it goes, rattling the entire screen. It's still a pretty scary situation though. Morker the Shadowgave almost died in the pits, and the Assassin as well as this Warlord were really going after him, so I just had to kind of retreat and force it into a bit of a kite and fight situation. But Morker is going to turn around now. And he's a strong duelist. He's poison, regeneration, 55 melee attack. So him plus the help of his Shaman and some of these other troops should be able to make pretty quick work of this Assassin here. In the meantime, my throwing axes are just kind of teeing off in this Clan Rat, who's going to be summoning some of these Clan Rats to help him out and screen some of these. Oh, did he summon Clan Rats there? Wait, do they summon? Yeah, they summon Clan Rats. For some reason, I thought it was Skaven Slaves. I just totally, my brain kind of just gave out on me there. But regardless of Cygor, and another cool thing about Cygors compared to regular artillery is the fact that even if it does get forced into a pitched fight, it's going to be a 400 weapon strength, 45 melee attack, fear and terror causing entity that does have decent leadership. So we're kind of in the last fight here. You can see the remaining Skaven troops, some Clan Rats, the Plague Priest, and I'm not sure where his Warlord is. I'm pretty sure it's still alive. Let's go ahead and take a look around here. So the Warlord's still alive here. Pretty good shape, but obviously his leadership isn't the best here. So Morker is definitely going to be tough to finish without the Assassin and some of those characters that are going to be really high DPS. He's going to be regenerating. He's nowhere near his healing cap. And you can see that the Cygor and the this Hog Chariot, and I think it's kind of gnarly. I've never really looked up close at one of these things, but that's pretty foul. It's definitely a little Nurgle beast right there. And you can see over here the Cygor is going to be dealing with some Clan Rats, which isn't ideal, but it's just so darn slow that I just figured I'll have it fight whatever's closest to it. And at this point, I'm just going to be getting my Centaurs, the throwing axes, up and around the flank, and I actually summon a second Cygor, so I was saving up for that for quite some time, and I'm finally able to get that. So at this point, the Skaven are pretty much out of luck. I mean, two Cygors just kind of smashing down here is going to be enough to take out this Warlord, no problem. I'm pretty sure the Cygor could easily solo this guy, so So at that point, most of the Skaven troops are going to shatter. I'm just going to be using my Centaurs to chase down these routing troops and just ensure the victory. And that's going to be all she wrote for the Foul Skaven hordes. So let's go ahead and take a look at the breakdown and see what really worked. But I did like those Cygors quite a bit. I felt like they were useful, and maybe bringing like an extra group of Harpies could have been good. I mean, I feel like Harpies are just so good in this matchup because there's so many high-value Skaven targets that are relatively low armor. Like, you know, just having them, even if the Plague Monks are fighting, let's say, some Gore Herds, if you get a rear charge with Harpies and they're 44 weapon strength, that's going to be a huge leadership hit. It's going to break the frenzy. They just give you a lot of tactical options. As far as the front line goes, I did like it. The best Gore Herds, they did their job. You know, some of the Gore Herds, they held their own. Obviously, they're going to lose to elite Skaven troops, but they do a decent little job for you, especially with Morkor supporting. And I actually felt like the Cygor summoning tactic was pretty good. Like I said, you know, a couple times, I've just been repeating that nonstop, but it was decent. Like I got a lot of value. 106 kills, a lot of those on Censor Bears. We were able to essentially use this Cygor to neuter one group of Censor Bears before the fighting started, and probably netting us about like 700 or 800 gold right out of the gates. On top of that, he was fighting and causing fear and terror and different things like that. I definitely think the Centaurs with throwing axes are a must. Just a good dual purpose unit. They are really good at taking out Doom Wheels, really good at cycle charging regular Skaven troops. If you have to, you can use them to charge into Slingers. They can charge into Poison Gulbadeers. They can run after Gutter Runners with Poison. They just bring so much to the table. So I definitely feel like it was pretty solid stuff there. So for my opponent, the Exploding Hamster, quite a fitting name there. Warlord was cool. I still think like, you know, Tretch is good, but I don't know. The best one is going to be Skrulk. I mean, despite the nerfs, his abilities are still really good. The Libra Bubonicus is still quite powerful and all those things. Very good for like alpha striking, and he contaminates too, so that's going to be great against Frenzy on Beastmen. But yeah, it was cool stuff here. The Clan Rat Spears are always pretty decent. Going to fend off a lot of Centaur play, and if they do end up fighting against Cygors or large entity threats, they're going to be good. And yeah, it was a pretty cool build for sure. Like it could have gone either way. There was a few pretty close points in the battle. Like had I not been able to get Morkor out of that pit, and his assassin and his warlord had been able to kill Morkor, the game certainly could have gone the other way. So very well played, my opponent, the Exploding Hamster. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Beastmen showdown. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.